Well, that concludes our pre-podcast podcast.
Yay!
Now into the actual podcast. This week for our third session is who's reading the intro? Cranberries, are you reading the intro?
I don't know. I just got here. I wasn't informed I was supposed to introduce this thing.
Well, I don't think Rickenbacker's doing the intro. So I guess I'll just finish the intro. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Who's Reading the Intro.
Thank you. I'm Blarp, and welcome. Subject, response, How to Goodbye Depression 1 from RSC. Date 1999, 12/13. Newsgroup Depression. Hiroyuki Nishigaki wrote, "Hello for 20 years. As a result, he has good complexion and has grown 20 years younger. So, he started when he was 50, and he grew 20 years younger during those 20 years, so he must still be 50. But you say he's 70, so he must really be 90, which would make him 70. No, wait, he's grown 20 years younger. Then, 20 years ago, he was 110? Can I see this guy's birth certificate? I'm getting really confused here." From RSE. Now, as we were talking about before the podcast, some of us have some issues with vocal fry.
Yes.
I don't know if you mean
Is that targeted?
It's
I hate
it's a
it so
wonderful
much.
technique. It is a wonderful and beautiful technique to garner you respect in the workplace. How can you not respect someone who has vocal fry in their voice?
See, I think the sort of grating part that can come from it is when people start, as a habit of drawing out what they're talking, like what they're saying, and they just extend words with that vocal fry, and that can be what can be grating for some people.
Yeah, that's just like how I talk, you know? I mean...
Oh, we're going southern
Sorry.
now.
Sorry, yeah, I
Valley,
jumped into my
valley.
southern drawl.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the same thing for the people that hate ASMR triggers that in me, where I just like it. I have a visceral reaction against it. It just doesn't click.
It's like nails on a chalkboard for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that way with like smacking sounds. I really just hate smacking sounds. Like I will sometimes listen to ASMR to sleep, but it's like ocean sounds. I like ocean and like trains and stuff. I don't get people who like, you know, the smacking in the ear. It just it's not, it makes me very uncomfortable.
Actually,
I like listening to an air conditioner.
Actually, that's kind of interesting because, like, I can't stand like ASMR. Like, I just hate ASMR as a concept. It's like all those things of just, is this satisfying, and those sort of random things. Just, it doesn't do anything to me, and I'm just sort of like, why are people wasting time on this for some reason?
I see.
But I think it sort of like comes across in how I process audio and a lot of the stuff that I do, because I've realized that like I will spend hours tweaking my de-esser and everything to just make sure that all the like crackles and stuff are just all smoothed out, and I don't want any of that in my voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also a neurodivergent thing as we trend more towards white collar work, as autism spectrum becomes more understood. It's very much becoming an issue, not an issue, but a very noticeable pattern that some people who have ADHD, who have other like their brain just function differently, it becomes a stim for them. That certain audios will literally trigger emotional and endocrinal responses inside their system. This is one of the reasons why ASMR is so popular. Is for a lot of people, they didn't realize that they can stim from audio cues.
I don't like it. And
it's not for everybody.
I do have the ADHD.
Yeah.
I've
So
been
you're probably
wondering
just a
for
different kind of
years.
neurodivergent.
I wasn't tested as a kid, but I don't know if I have it or not.
I've never
I
been
see
tested for anything
patterns.
either. But like I'm wondering. I sometimes I wonder. Sometimes I do weird things that I'm just wondering. Like, is this a thing? Should I get this checked out? I really don't know.
I think
So-
everyone wonders that.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
certain, yeah.
And the fact is that to a certain extent, like, that is just sort of a natural thing. It's when you go beyond that. So for me, one of the more like common stories with ADD and ADHD is it's not like one of the big things is it's not that you can't focus, it's that things that you focus on have to be interesting to you, because the second that they aren't interesting to you, that's when it becomes an incredible chore. And it's basically like some, I guess, somewhat similar to autism in terms of like you just can't deal with like paying attention to that topic at all. And it actually makes things like, since it compounds with dyslexia for me, so it's just sort of like, okay, I hate reading. Reading is so boring, and I'm reading about a boring topic. This is just compounding and compounding, and it's like, it makes it impossible to get through some stuff.
But at the same time, I know one of your favorite phrases is also RTFM, which is not reading nothing but technical writing, the definition of intriguing and interesting.
So,
But that's like what you were saying about it being very motivational based.
yeah.
I know for
You're-
me, especially like during school, like online schooling for the past like 3 semesters, like putting myself in a space where I have access to like games while during lecture is like very detrimental to my learning experience, because like I'm not interested in the material, so I'm just
Oh my
playing a
gosh.
game while I listen to lecture.
Yeah,
So, like,
same.
I just can't. I feel like that's why I prefer lectures to online lectures. Is that like I need to force myself to focus because that's the only thing at my disposal.
Yeah.
I'm
Instead
like
of-
that, but like even in real life, like if I'm in like a meeting or something like that, that I just like, I mean, I'll listen to the meeting. I'll like, it's almost like I'll have music playing in the back of my head, but it's like I'll put the meeting at the back of my head. But if I am not drawing, I can't really remember anything. I don't know why.
So,
I don't know why this is the case, but I can remember things if I'm like doing something else at the same time.
So that actually can play into one interesting thing with that gets talked a lot about in alternative learning. And what I mean by alternative learning, I mean it's sort of like education that is targeted towards certain demographics, like say dyslexia, where we focus a lot on things like different approaches to learning. So how can you bind what you're learning with physical learning, auditory, visual? So like I actually have a auditory processing issue, so certain, and word recollection, which is not great, but regardless, so for one thing, audio by itself is incredibly difficult for me to process. So you know, writing things down in terms of like memorization, I'll start like pricking my fingers or like tapping things just to help me out, to give me physical cues. And there's certain sort of elements that you can do to actually trigger that, and that's helpful for anyone, is to actually learn, like, are you a visual learner, are you an auditory learner, are you text-based
Kinetic learner.
How do you associate different things? And when you can pinpoint that, it can help tremendously in how you actually retain information. So
I know
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
putting on music on the music in the background helps me like focus. Like it doesn't have to be like classical music or any type of music. Just helps me like focus at the task at hand, because it gives me like this like background noise to like just focus. It might be really weird, but like it
No,
helps me
it's
a lot.
that's
That's
pretty
pretty
It's not
common.
that weird, yeah.
There are all sorts of coping mechanisms and strategies that exist out there. I think that's one of the trickier things, is now that we've started studying how to study more, we will oftentimes hide ADHD and ADD in children by just teaching them all the coping mechanisms and never really trying to figure out whether or not there's an underlying disruption. I know that there are a number of individuals who have graduated college, have successful careers, they hit Silicon Valley, and then they hit a wall like 25, 26, and they go to a therapist, and they're just like, oh no, look at you, you're high functioning, you're doing fine. And then they're like, no, 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 but I mask everything, right? So when I'm in a meeting, I'm always doodling on my pad. I'm almost always have something that I'm fidgeting with. I'm almost always, I cannot work if I'm not doing something else at the same time, and that's now being disruptive towards my work, and
So-
that's being recognized now more and more as, okay, you probably do have ADHD, but you've been coping with it for so long that it's a little bit difficult to spot on face.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
no.
actually,
I may
one
need to get checked out now.
well,
What you just
Yeah,
described is
and
just
it's super
just
tricky.
me.
And it's super duper tricky because the DSM-5 talks about it. It has to be disruptive. It has to be debilitating. It has
Yeah.
to be, if I take away your coping mechanisms, if I put you in a room with nothing but the task, you just won't complete the task, almost irrespective of how long I give you. This is one of the parts where we're still kind of figuring out what the boundaries of ADHD and ADD really are.
yeah. So
Yeah.
another interesting aspect of that is one common thing that you'll actually notice among dyslexic children is that you'll actually they'll have, like, say, a favorite book that they love to be read to. Like, they ask their parents read the same book over and over until they memorize word for word what that book is, and they cling on to that because basically we're able to hide exactly like that. We can't read the book, that we're illiterate essentially, because we know every word in the book and we can just go, okay, on this page it says this.
So you're saying that it's bad that I memorized all of Star Wars as a kid? Because I kind of did that. That was me.
So there's a
It's not
difference
that it's
between
bad.
memorizing it just because you enjoy it and just going, like, because in first grade, I would sit in class or they had like reading time, and so you go off, you read a book, and yeah, I'd pick up a book and try to get through it very poorly, and my teacher like asked me, it's like your teacher's just checking up on you and like how you're actually reading it. And because I was trying to hide it by actually just sort of reciting off what I had already read, just to make it look like I was reading properly. And that's just a common thing that kids with dyslexia will do to just try to hide the difficulty that they're having, and it just becomes sort of a normal thing to be doing that.
Let's see.
Yeah,
I feel
masking
like-
habits are
yeah,
very challenging.
yeah.
They're very tricky.
I feel like as I gotten older, my hatred of like reading has decreased because like now I can actually read what I want to read, and I found that like I'm open to more like lighter forms of reading, like manga or like light novels, than like the dense prose of like high school, where like I have to fucking read this chunk of text for like 1 or 2 hours just to like take notes, and I'm starting to actually enjoy reading again. And I think
Yeah, I think that's more of an issue with how literacy is taught, and just sort of that sort of push to actually get people to read, because otherwise, reading can and should be enjoyment for some people. For me, it's just, the issue is that I'll read a line of text, but I don't process that. And so I have to reread the same line of text 10 times, and it just becomes incredibly frustrating. So I don't want to just go back or I don't want to read at all because of that.
Yeah, I kind of had that issue too, but it was like mostly with like things I was disinterested in. Now the Harry Potter series, like I did have to go back and like reread some things where I'd like skip over paragraphs and stuff like that. But I was invested in the series. I was laser focused. I would actually read the book. But if you handed me like a paper to read, I would just like skim it, pick out some important things.
Yeah,
But
and this is also
yeah.
this is also why it's really tricky to diagnose it in children because for adults
Yeah.
they test ADHD and ADD by explicitly trying to test executive function. So things like how much self-control you have. If I explain to you gravity of a task, will it make it easier for you to perform this task? Because ADHD, I believe it's mostly understood today as a disconnect in the executive processing. But when you're a kid, this is like the marshmallow test. There is no executive processing.
Yeah, you're a kid. You're still learning things. You're still
Right.
learning how to do the thing.
Yeah. So the reference is so short that a lot of people misdiagnose impatience or just short-sightedness as a lack of executive function, which I mean, to be fair, it's a kid. What,
Yeah.
what do you expect from a child to do? The famous marshmallow study was very, very indicative. If kids develop executive function very early, they're going to do great in life because that's just an arm and a leg ahead. But most kids don't develop that.
That'd be hilarious if I had been submitted for that because I would have just gone like, I don't like marshmallows.
You know what? I think they had a control for it. They had to remove some data points because there were individuals who said, "I don't like marshmallows."
Oh no! What kid doesn't like marshmallows? Blarp,
I don't
what
like
happened to you that you
I-
don't like marshmallows?
I don't-
They didn't have a single alternative either.
I just
They didn't
don't
have, like, a
like.
cookie?
I really don't have that much of a taste for sugar.
I feel
Oh,
like
okay, that's fair.
marshmallows are just like pure, like there's no like flavor. I don't know.
It's the texture for marshmallows that are weird to me.
I only like marshmallows if they're warm. I won't eat like. I almost said raw marshmallows, but I don't think that's the right term.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with you. Marshmallows are mostly just gelatin. It's an aerated
Yeah.
form of gelatin. So it's
Yeah.
like I love soup, but if you try to give me a solid block of soup that's solid at room temperature, I'm gonna
Yeah,
give you a
that's
very
fair.
bizarre look.
Just give him like one
Oh,
of those
God.
chicken bouillon cubes
No,
or something
even
like
worse.
that.
Do you guys know what aerogel is, right?
Aerogel?
Yeah,
Aerogel,
aerogel.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's effectively what marshmallows are.
We need some of that.
Imagine
thick
an
soup.
aerogel made out of soup. That's what a marshmallow is to me.
Huh.
Full of air, oddly structurally grainy, and just squishy. Why is it squishy? Food should be firm.
What's wrong with squishy food?
Give
I
me
like
I don't know,
give me
man. I
texture.
don't want.
Apples are
if I
crispy.
had like a.
Apples
I
are
like a
crispy.
soft
Even
cookie.
pears. Even good pears are described as crispy.
I would
No,
You don't
just.
want to
is-
like.
No.
You don't want to
I-
bite
I-
into a fruit and suck it all out like
Okay,
a vampire.
this
I
is
want a
What
fair,
about
soft pear.
but
oranges?
you must
I want a soft
consider.
pear. Soft pears are good. Change my mind.
But good steak is usually like not like chewy, but like
Yeah.
it's got some chew to it. I'm not making any
I call
sense.
fish
but...
squishy
Well,
as well.
That I don't know. Steak gets very subjective. I'm closer towards the blue rare side of things, so it's
yeah,
very
I like
subjective to
I
me.
like medium. I like a good middle
Oh.
ground medium.
I feel like I only enjoy steak if it's like thin. I don't like thicker steaks.
just
That's how you're cutting it on the board. You're not when you're cutting it straight down. Try it on a bias. So because the grain on a ribeye, I'm just going to assume you're cooking mostly ribeye. The
No,
grain
I'm
on the
cooking-
ribeye.
I'm cooking mostly skirt steak and flank.
Oh, well, that's because you're cooking
Oh.
skirt and flank.
No, 'cause I don't like the thicker cuts.
Oh
I don't-
no, then that's exactly what I'm talking about. If you're processing a thicker cut of meat, you don't want to like after you're done cooking, you don't want to like slap it straight down onto the board and cut straight vertically down. Try it at a 45-degree angle when you cut the slices.
Yeah.
Because technically you're cutting against the grain, you're cutting against the grain when you're chopping straight down. But the way that ribeye is structured and the way they cut it for you at like the counter and at the deli, the grain doesn't really run orthogonal to the cutting board or parallel to the cutting board. It's like some weird ass angle. So if you cut it at 45 degrees, you'll find the texture is vastly improved.
It's not a texture thing. It's just like I don't know. It's I grew up eating like thinner cuts of steak, so like I grew like a love for it, but like not the like thicker cuts.
God, you make
I
it sound
just-
like you were raised out of Philadelphia off of hoagies and cheesesteaks.
Oh, no.
I mean,
My
one of
family had a
Chicago's
deli slicer in the
dishes-
kitchen. Was dark times.
Oh no.
I mean, like one of Chicago's like famous dishes is the beef dip sandwich. And it's like those are like thinly cut too. So I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just weird.
Interesting.
Shaved
Well,
meats.
If we ever hang out, we'll
In
cook some
person.
steak sometimes, and we'll see
Yes.
how you feel.
I've
Oh,
I've been
God.
told I can make a decent steak.
Medium
I
steak.
will.
Ooh.
Well, so here's the thing. See, a medium steak is what I order when I go out because I don't trust restaurants to make like a rare steak, but it be like food safe. And just
But that's
because
the
I'm
whole
paranoid
point of a
about that kind of
steakhouse.
thing.
Okay, all right, that's fair.
Okay, yes, but I'm usually getting like I don't know. I usually don't get steak out at all. What I usually do is I will get a steak, but I'll sous vide it. And then I'll just do a
Ooh.
quick sear. And then that is like the juiciest steak you'll ever have. It's amazing.
I'm a pretty big fan of just throw it into cast iron with some good seasoning, and you're done pretty quickly.
That's fair. That's a very valid way. I love really, really juicy cuts of meat. So sous videing is like if I want something perfect. Plus, if I'm like also working that day, it takes some of the cook time out of it for me, even though you're supposed to do steaks really fast anyway, but that's besides the point.
Nah, sous
Well,
vide just makes it easy, and it's a good way to do it.
Sous vide makes
Exactly.
it foolproof.
Yeah, exactly. I like it because it's foolproof, because I'm a fool.
I need to
think
get
I prefer ground meat than like steaks or
Like a burger. Good
no,
burger.
like a burger or like just ground beef. Or
I'm
Have you-
I've come to the realization I'm incredibly picky about burgers, and yet I just don't really like burgers that much.
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah.
I need to send you the recipe for mustard-based smash burgers.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have the trashiest food taste out of everyone here.
Oh, lay it on me, Mr. Taylor Ham. Let's go. Represent your represent the. Oh God, what even is the motto? Is it the Ocean State? No, it's
Garden
something a
State.
little bit worse.
No, it's the Garden State.
It's the Garden State. Unbelievable.
The
All that
Garden
coastline
State.
to be called the Garden State.
Homemade burgers,
either-
yes, correct. Always.
For me, it's
Yeah.
like you could like step on my foot and my head would open like a trash can and you could just dump anything in there.
Oh God, homemade burgers. I need to find a good turkey burger recipe. Every time I make one, I'm horrified by how much the burger swells in the middle. I need some way to get rid of the water content. I'm not sure what I'm doing.
What? Oh no.
Have you ever made a turkey burger? Like from
No,
scratch?
I have not, but
Yeah.
I'm terrified
no, not
to.
from scratch, but like the
Turkey
pre-
has a surprisingly high water content. So you do the thing, right, where you sear both sides and get that nice
Yeah.
browning, that flavor, that smell. It smells wonderful.
It smells really good.
When you flip it over, because you seared that one side, turkey starts like it seals over, so that moisture will not steam out of the patty. And
It's
because
just
you've
like-
seared it and seals it over, it just balloons in the middle.
Yeah, it balloons so much.
It is so it is absolutely delicious, but it is so disturbing to see. You don't want to see your burger have a pimple. It's oh my God, it's such a process. It is such a process.
Yes.
But yeah, Blarp, let me send you Kenji's recipe actually for mustard based smash burgers. They're surprisingly good, and I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, for
Good
me,
use of
delicious.
cast iron.
I-
Really good use of cast iron.
okay, there we go. Because I believe that the best way by far to cook a burger is also cast iron pan. Just
Yeah,
'cause-
you have to. You need that heat. You got to get that sizzle.
yeah, you get the heat, and you aren't just letting the juices just float away or drip away. You're cooking it kind of in the juices. Hopefully, it's evaporating to some extent, so you don't get a sort of boiled burger, because that's just sad as
Yeah.
well.
That is very sad.
I need to buy a cast iron. I don't.
Oh,
Honestly,
cast irons
just
are
get a
amazing.
Lodge. Seriously, get a Lodge cast iron. Go to your
Yes.
school's workshop, blast the crap out of it. Don't worry about getting it mirror smooth. That's like kind of a thing that you can do for like older stuff. It doesn't really matter too much. And then just fry the crap out of it for 2 months, and you'll get your patina just fine.
So what do I do?
Okay,
I'm
realistically,
a complete noob. All right. I know nothing about cooking.
Buy a basic 10-inch cast iron from Lodge, right? That's like 25, 26 bucks, depending on where you are in the country. Take it to your school's workshop and say, hey, can I sand this down? And then just strip all the patina off of it. Anything that's black, bring it down, and anything in the middle of the pan, just try to smooth it out. You don't put in too much work because you don't need it to be mirror smooth. Just like smooth it down until it looks reasonably smooth until you're happy with it, and then after that, wash it thoroughly. You can dry it with acid if you want, but that's kind of overkill. And then just bring it home and do nothing but fry things in it for like a solid month.
There's
So like what I don't understand is like how do you clean a cast iron? Like I don't.
It's
Blarp is
literally
better at this
just
than I am.
So-
I'm kind
Yeah,
of
it's
lazy
better
about
to
cleaning
not.
it.
so
Yeah.
okay. So
So you just like wash it with water?
So here's what I have sort of determined after experimenting a lot is that you can use soap, just don't use a lot of soap and don't go crazy on the abrasives because quite frankly, cast iron gets disgusting if you don't use soap at all and it gets
Yeah.
weird. You do just use a very light amount of soap. Just make
Yeah,
sure that you
something
get
soft
rid
left
of
on.
the big thing is use a lot of water, get all the debris off. Don't wash it right away because it's going to be hot and you're just going to crack or warp it. So
Yeah.
like but try to wash it while it's still warm. Yeah, just have like just try to knock off as much abrasive as you can. Once you're done washing it, you don't really have to worry about drying it off. Just toss it on the stove, and just heat it up. I don't
That'll drive
worry.
off most of the moisture.
Yeah, don't worry too much about reseasoning it. You can, but that's just sort of like an extra step, and I recommend doing that like maybe once every few times you cook with it. But if you're
And that's
cooking
what
with
really
oily
I
like,
things,
usually
you
only
cook acidic
reseason
things.
my pan when I've actually like had to scrub it with soap.
yeah,
Because I feel like I've taken off some of the seasoning from before. But
That-
usually I'm only scrubbing if I've got like something burned on the bottom,
yeah.
which is not often. But
That being said, if you're just like cooking eggs and stuff on it that just doesn't stick at all,
yeah,
then just throw it on. Don't even I just knock off all the debris and I don't even worry about washing it.
Yeah.
Because my parents
it's
have
nice.
always used a nonstick, so I never.
Nonstick is good, especially now that modern nonsticks are better. Now that they're coming out with glues that can hold up really well up to temperatures like 450. There are even some oven-safe nonsticks out there now today. The Tefal nonsticks are pretty good. They make a set that's really good for on the stove and into the oven. So these are like a lot of bakers are having a lot of fun with it because they're doing like traditional. I forgot what it's called. It's like the it's like apple turnover kind of thing where you make a caramel at the bottom of the pan, throw your apples down, throw the crust on top of it, and then bake it. I don't remember what it's called, but they're
Oh.
like, I think you
it's not.
I don't. It's not called
is
the.
it?
No, it's not a popover. Popover is something that's fried deeply in oil. So
Right,
a popover is
okay.
like a Yorkshire pudding kind of a deal.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
But
yeah.
like they're like modern nonsticks are getting really, really, really good. But still, modern nonsticks have the problem where after 2 years you should really consider throwing them away because paints will degrade, the glue will release eventually, and all that stuff is carcinogenic. But yeah, don't be afraid about doing cast iron. Cast iron is a lot tougher than what a lot of people will think. Just don't use cold water right if it's hot, and if you're scrubbing, just make sure you're using a very safe dish detergent like modern versions of Dawn. These don't have the harsher chemicals like lye in it that will really strip down and break down things.
Yeah.
So don't get Barkeeper's Friend. That's good for your like all clad and good for your like multi-layer stainless steel cookware. But don't use that on your cast iron.
Wait. There are people who use Barkeeper's Friend on their cookware.
Yeah, Barkeeper's Friend is a great way if you have stainless steel cookware. So like, for example, Kirkland sells their version of an all-clad. I think it's for a 1.3 quart, 1.33 quart pot like saute pot pan thing. That's stainless steel. I don't know what number, but that's stainless steel, and you can use Barkeeper's Friend, and you can scrub the inside. So if anything sticks, anything burns, just add a little bit, give it a little wipe, and then it's pretty much all gone.
Oh,
I
okay.
think I've always used
I don't have
Dawn.
stainless steel cookware, but we usually use Barkeeper's Friend for like our sinks and stuff. It's really good about getting like those scratches out of those like it's not a ceramic sink. I'm not really sure what they put on sinks nowadays, but
Probably
I think
porcelain.
it's It's not porcelain. I think it is ceramic.
Uh,
It's like some version of ceramic.
Yeah,
Is it
whatever they put in
Mhm.
sinks these days, it's really good about getting scratches and like grime out of the sink when we're just trying to clean it up a
Yeah.
little. So
Yeah.
Most of the sinks
Honestly, you
I've had were either metal or like steel or something. So
Yeah. I got one of those nice the country sink ones, the really nice
Ooh.
and deep. Oh my god, just throw
oh
your Dutch
yes.
oven in there and just don't think about it. Oh, those are so nice.
Oh, that's
It was
nice.
terrible. Yeah. They're so
I-
nice.
I've seen this like, so I was on like TikTok the other day and saw this like faucet adapter for like your like bathroom sink that like lets you like bend it so like you can use it as like a clear down wipe down thing, or like a faucet, like a water fountain for like brushing your teeth. It was really cool.
That
I
just
kinda
makes me
get one.
think that makes me think of the plastic whale thing that you can get.
Oh,
onto your
yeah.
Plastic whale, yes. I was about
I'm
to reference
so
that.
glad everybody knows exactly what this is.
The
The
plastic
plastic
whale is
whale.
a treasure.
Yes.
Feels like a lot of sort of things that have existed in China for a long time, and the rest of the world is just discovering the stuff now and discovering the world, the fine world of incredibly like makes IKEA look like luxury furniture level of disposable just sort of living ware.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, IKEA's not that bad for like college budget. It's pretty good.
Oh no, I still full-heartedly believe in IKEA for a lot of stuff.
We
They
are
make
not
some good
sponsored
stuff.
by IKEA.
Yeah.
We just
yes,
really
just
love them.
gonna claim that we're not not sponsored.
Who's reading the intro this week is not sponsored by IKEA or Alibaba. Please let Jack Ma go. He did nothing wrong.
We have no sponsorship.
We have no sponsor.
If you
But we
wanted
would
to
like some.
contact us,
If you would like to contact us
man.
for a sponsorship, we have no email, so good luck.
Yes.
If you would like to
Good luck.
contact us, message Blarp on his YouTube channel that he has 3 videos on.
Yeah, I need
Do
to
you even
get some
have a
more
business
videos
email
up soon.
set up for that account?
I do not. I don't think.
So as previously mentioned, if you would like to contact us, good luck.
I believe you can do DMs. DM me on Twitter.
Oh boy, is that even?
Oh
linked?
yeah, you do have a Twitter.
I do
It is
have a
linked.
Twitter.
Oh boy.
Just
How long
plug
till
all
we're
the things real
how long
quick.
till we're
There you go.
shielding like Dollar Shave Club and Audible?
Oh my gosh.
One day I can
day.
dream.
One
One
day.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have yet to make my pilgrimage to IKEA as a young adult. I feel like that's a thing that everyone does nowadays, is just like a pilgrimage to IKEA, just like buy at least one thing for their new apartment or something like that.
Either that
Yeah,
or Target.
truly, their modular shelving is actually quite a nice design.
Yes.
Go for the
I have-
meatballs.
Actually looked into that. I do want that, and their meatballs. The only time I've been to IKEA is when we were moving into our new house back when I was in high school.
Ooh.
And that was when I found out that IKEA was a thing. I didn't even know IKEA existed
So-
near
It
our
is.
house until high school.
It's
so
it's the Swedish meatballs. It's the large blue tarp bag, and it is
Yes.
their modular
Yes.
shelving and effectively hollow core desks.
So-
those are the 3
Yes.
things that make IKEA for me.
Wild-
And unpronounceable names.
Wild statement here. The frozen meatballs that you can buy from Trader Joe's are better than the frozen meatballs from IKEA. And
I don't doubt that.
the
No, I just got the cafeteria at IKEA.
well, those
I've
are the
never-
same, those are the same exact meatballs. They're frozen regardless.
Yeah.
They're just
I've
eating
never
them up
been
for
to
you.
a Trader Joe's, so I can't.
I don't doubt that. The real
comment.
question is just the pricing, because one of the IKEA's corporate policies is that their hot dogs and meatballs are set at loss leader prices. That's why if you ever want to know the price of food for a region, you just look up IKEA's menu, because they, by corporate order, they have to set the cost of their hot dog to be the lowest within a certain mile radius.
really,
Yes, it's their loss leader strategy because they recognize it as a culture thing.
Doesn't
It's the same reason
Costco-
why Costco chickens
Yeah.
are so goddamn cheap.
Costco hot dogs are like really cheap for
That's
that
cool.
same reason, right?
Costco hot dogs are different because they actually fully manufacture that.
Well-
So those aren't loss leaders, but their $5 rotisserie chicken is a huge loss
So-
leader. I think it's the tune of 25 billion last year. Not 25 million last year. They lost that much on chicken sales.
So the
Wow.
hot dogs are, they set the price. I don't know how long ago, but it's essentially they've been maintaining the same price that they set like 20 some years ago or something like that.
It's something along the lines of like the founder of Costco, essentially going like, if you raise the price, I'll
You're fired?
kill you.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's
Yeah,
like
pretty
the
much.
rotisserie lost leader, hot dogs like way of life. That's the difference between the two.
Yeah, so hot dogs
Yeah.
just they're at a set price. They do lose money on the hot dogs as well.
Yeah.
But I have gone there in similar big box stores like to eat the food court. I did that a lot at RIT. Especially
Uh,
because in a lot of those places they'll just let you go into like the food court. You don't have to have a membership card.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I know my
Yeah, we
parents
didn't-
really like Sam's Club, and they hate Costco for some reason.
Yeah, so
it's
we
a
didn't.
weird rivalry.
that
Yeah, we didn't have a Costco. I grew up with Sam's. Sam's Club was the thing I
Yeah.
grew up with. Yeah.
I grew up with
I don't know if
BJ's.
Sam's Club has that big of a culture around their food. I know they got like those giant cups you can get for 75 cents, which is nice.
so
They
Sam's
do
is more
like
Midwestern.
churros.
Sam's is more of a Midwestern thing. They have a much
Yeah, I
better
guess
presence
so.
there.
that's weird because like Sam's Club, I don't. Does it have the same sort of reputation that Costco has for treating its employees correctly? Because that's one of
don't
I
know.
actually don't know.
I
I
doubt
don't
it because
believe
it's
so.
part of Walmart.
Yeah, it's part of Walmart,
Okay.
so I don't. I would not
Probably
assume so.
Probably
I
not.
don't believe so.
Yeah.
I think what it mostly is just the supply logistics.
Yeah.
If you want to operate in the Midwest, it's very difficult because
Yeah.
everything is so close to supplier, right? Because there's so much meat processing and other stuff there that most typical margin items don't perform very well.
Mm.
So Costco has a hard time muscling its way into the Midwest because the demographics are different. Like the catering is different.
makes
Right?
sense.
I don't know if you've been to Costco lately. I actually went just this past Friday. Who's reading this intro is not sponsored by Costco, but like
Or
almost
Sam's Club.
like when you go to the snack sections now, I'd say almost 10% of the food goods are Asian themed or Asian inspired.
Yep.
I bought a mixed bag of pre-packaged Japanese rice crackers. It was like a variety mix of rice crackers. I bought shrimp crackers. I had to explain to this lovely elderly white couple what the hell a mooncake was and why
Oh,
are we
God.
eating an egg yolk and why are we selling egg yolk as a solid form as a sweet dessert.
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh my.
Oh no!
So it's
Oh,
it's just one of those
goodness.
things where the demographics just don't line up. People who go conventionally to Sam's Clubs are like people who like much more typical Midwestern appetites.
Yeah.
Potato is the closest thing that they'll get to a vegetable.
Sure.
Maybe some carrots. And
Ketchup.
after that, it's just how can we source ketchup and our beef in as large of a volume as possible.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I feel
Kirkland
like
is a
for,
very
like,
different approach.
For like mostly like Asian snacks and stuff, I like to like visit like Chinatowns and like Vietnamese towns. You know, like I like.
I
Yeah,
agree.
you're never going to be able to beat a direct importer. I will be shocked the day that I see Haichu at a Costco. I'm surprised that it hasn't happened yet, but I'm waiting for that day.
You do regularly see Pocky though.
Yeah,
You do see Pocky, that's true.
I saw
Yeah.
Haichu at a the main grocery store here on my campus. Like it wasn't like it's.
But you live in an urban campus.
Oh yeah, true. But I don't know. I've seen
Yeah.
Pocky and Haichu at more and more like traditionally like white stores.
I know I've seen it locally where I go, and I can tell you all honestly, and Blarp probably knows that I don't go to like ethnic stores. I know I've seen it at like a Wegmans or something.
What a phrasing, ethnic stores.
Yeah, no, I've seen it at Wegmans. I went to college in Texas and I saw Pocky there. Like they get it in like every so often, and every time they had it in the school stores that were on campus, I'd always buy up a bunch of chocolate Pocky because I love Pocky. And it was my source of happiness through the sadness of studying.
Yeah, I believe Pocky and Haichu have sort of entered
Mainstream.
basically entered sort of America as a mainstream thing. It's no longer that weird Japanese snack. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Choco
at some
pies
point
are
it's going to
better.
be similar to Kit Kat.
I know there's some like Italian. God, what is some sort of Italian like sweet wafer tube? It's like
yeah, I've heard of
like
those.
that's existed forever too,
Yeah.
and Pocky's just similar enough to it. Where
Sweet wafer
they,
Sweet
tube.
wafer tube.
Yeah,
like
they-
I'm just
Is it the ones that come in like a tin can?
yeah, I'm posting in the
Oh,
group chat.
Yeah,
I've
I know
seen
these
those.
are good.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think those
yeah.
are close enough where they're like, well, shit, we can just sell these too.
Yeah.
More
I think for
Yeah.
some of the resistance in America is that we're so used to sourdough pretzels, we're so used to salt-based pretzels, that having a sweet, neutral pretzel is a little bit different. Because we're so used to
like-
that salty bite. Yeah, I
like
keep calling
the
these things
sweet- I love
chocolate
those.
cigars.
Yeah,
They're so good.
and like I've had these in very Italian places, and I know for a fact it was not Pocky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just down a Pocky so fast. Like a box, I just like gulp that shit.
That's why you need to
Yeah,
seek
same.
out Pocky Minis, because
Pocky Mini?
what that is you get the same amount. Well, you get like you eat the same amount, but it's like instead of like 20 Pocky in a package, you're getting like 50 because they're all incredibly skinny, which also gets you a better chocolate to biscuit
Oh.
ratio.
I
I'm
like
I'm
this
actually
idea.
really happy with the chocolate biscuit ratio that comes with it, but I think that's because I'm like you. I'm not a really big sweets person.
I mean, I like sweets, but like,
I think
I love
Pocky has a
sweets.
great ratio.
Well,
I just love food.
yeah.
going
true.
back
Does
to
not matter.
sweets and
That's fair.
texture, that's one thing Japan has down very well. But there is better things than haichu. It's called pucho, and essentially it's like you think of haichu, except it's also got these textural gummies in them that are it's just embedded inside. So like they have like a cola flavor.
Ooh.
And yeah, there's like a little bit of a
Oh.
poppiness to it. Like it's cool because they're adding extra textures to your just sort of standard chewy rectangle.
That sounds
As soon as-
delicious.
As soon as you said embedded textures, my brain, my big
Nerds.
glorious brain went straight to teleporting bread. Those are
sorry,
different textures,
what?
right?
I'm not gonna tell
it-
you
We
bread
embedded
for
different
days.
textures into your food today. Question: I have done nothing but teleport bread for the last few days.
Oh my god.
Well,
What?
Amazing.
I love
How are they? Are they similar to how there's a variety of textures in like Haburo gummies?
I have
Because
no
depending
idea.
on like, so for example, okay, all right.
Is it
I
like
took
a-
German in high school,
Wait,
so part of
Haburo?
Haburo.
Is it Haber? Not Haber. Is it
Haribo?
Haribo?
Yeah.
I think the American pronunciation is Haribo, or is
I
that the
hear-
German pronunciation?
I hear
don't know.
Haribo on TV commercials for the product, so I'm going with that. The
Haribo?
Happy
don't know.
World
Yeah,
of
I heard-
Haribo.
I'm not
Haribo.
sure where the long A comes from.
Like Harito, but Harito?
Well, Haburo is a
Haribo.
German company, so it's a German company. First, it's not a Japanese company. So I don't know where the long A comes from because I don't think in German, in Deutsch, they don't have a symbol for long A. So I always thought it was like it was. I don't even know how I
like
said it.
ah. Is that what the long A is?
A or A?
Because I'm
A.
like,
Well,
there's
Well, because
names
you
like,
said Haribo, right?
No, I said Haribo.
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 Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
Americanized.
That's Americanized? Okay, I'm not
I think that's
surprised.
Americanized.
I would not be surprised that
I
it's
can look up a
Americanized.
German. I can look up a German commercial.
This is
for
just
real
like the mind bending that happened to me a couple years ago when I found out that it wasn't Hagen
Haagen-Dazs?
Dazs.
Haagen-Dazs.
Hagen Dazs.
Haagen-Dazs.
It's
Because the umlauts, right? The umlauts make it longer? Or
it's
no?
Hagen Dazs is the correct one, I
Yeah.
think.
I think,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Haagen-Dazs.
Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah.
What do the umlauts do? That's what,
They
like, I,
they
I
lout.
don't know.
They
I don't
and then
remember.
they
It's been
lout.
too long.
They went loud.
They make faces.
They
man.
make words happy.
They make words
They
happy.
have little eyes now, so it's happy.
Oh no.
I think my favorite candy, like if you put a bag of it in front of me, I would absolutely demolish it, are peach rings.
Ooh.
No hesitation.
Yeah,
Lots of
that's
regret
good.
after, but no hesitation.
Actually,
Well,
Shoot, I'm
okay,
trying
so
to.
here's a question. So, like, what's that one snack that you'll absolutely devour? So we have peach rings. I'm trying to think of mine. Mm.
It's
Of-
Haribo is apparently how you pronounce it. So more like Harry Potter. Haribo.
Horrible.
Which makes sense because I've always hated doing German R's. It's not quite the same as rolling in Spanish and Romance languages. It's just a little different.
Yeah.
Haribo.
Howie
Yeah.
Bo.
Horrible.
Yeah.
I'll just
So that's apparently how
I'll
you say
just
it.
pronounce it with the
Totally.
W.
Totally did not pay attention to the last 15 seconds of conversation as I scrubbed through
We're
this YouTube
discussing
video.
what snacks would you absolutely devour.
Like no hesitation, someone puts a bag of it in front of you, it's gone in like 30 minutes max.
Ooh, that's it. I have to honestly say, shrimp chips are probably what it is for me.
Those are good.
Ooh.
I
I
think
think
for me, it's probably anything that's like wafery. I just love that texture and like
Can't
how
go wrong
like
with a Kit Kat.
flavors. Yeah, or even like those like Italian like wafer tubes. Those like anything wafery. I just love.
It
It-
gives like a giving crunch.
Yeah, and like
Yeah,
it's like it
very
flakes off.
satisfying.
It flakes too, and like you get the flavor.
Probably
Either that or Madeline's.
it's got to
Madeline's.
be something spicy for
Madeline.
me. So either like extra hot Cheetos, or the ghost pepper chips from Trader Joe's.
Also not sponsored.
Yeah.
Also not sponsored.
Also not
I've
sponsored.
never been
Man,
to one.
those Trader
Yeah.
From now
Joe's.
on, if we
ghost
mention
pepper
Oh,
any
you
chips.
need to go to
company-
Trader Joe's.
I never been.
Rickenbacker, do you like ice cream? Or like, what kind of ice creams do you like?
I go to the ice cream place near me. I like cookie dough.
Cookie dough. Okay. Yeah, I love the ice cream from Trader Joe's. Their like fruit and cream bars are fantastic.
Mint
It
chip
has
gang.
been ages. Since
You
I've
live
been
in
to
the
Trader
land
Joe's.
of regional ice cream places where you can get really good ice cream.
Oh God, we need to have a debate over Bedford Farms versus Kimball's. But
What
they're going to
the-
have zero context for this at all.
What?
What?
I have no
What?
idea
I'm
what
sorry.
that is.
What?
There's
What?
there's not just those. There's also like so many others in Massachusetts that
Oh my God, there's reasons to be cheerful sources their own milk too, don't they?
there's also Richardson's, I believe, is another one.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that one.
There's so many, and
I know there's one that people swear by over in Salem.
I believe that's Richardson's.
That's Richardson's? Okay, I'd believe that.
Yeah, there's just so many, and it's
Oh,
like
okay.
they're all way higher tier than anything else you can.
It's just so much better.
Fine.
Okay, so to explain very, very briefly, we grew up in New England, more specifically Massachusetts, along the state line near Vermont and New Hampshire. Vermont and New Hampshire are predominantly agricultural, but they can't really grow crops, so what they do instead is they farm cows. Lots of cows. I think milk is one of the is one of their top 5 exports almost every single year. Next to
I'm not
maple syrup.
surprised.
So what some of the ice cream shops in Massachusetts do is they will actually just full line from from milk to creamery to distribution. They will own the entire ice cream process.
Okay,
So
now
every
that is
time you get
cool.
something from them, you know that it didn't come out of a factory. You know that it didn't come from like lowest bidder sourcing. These people will just full line everything. Actually, Great Brook is one of the classic heritage farms that lives on a state sanctuary, basically like a state great forest preserve. They have the cows that make the milk on their location, and they cream it on location, like 100 feet away from where they serve it.
Yeah,
That
So
is
you
so
can
cool.
see. So you can see at Great Brook Farms the cows that produce a good chunk of the milk that they use for their ice cream.
It's kind of funny because you have that, and then like, also in New England, you've got the Ben and Jerry's HQ. That's
out of Vermont.
That's right in Vermont, and it's
Right
just
in
sort of
Vermont.
funny how it's just sort of Ben and Jerry's can get downplayed so easily because there's a whole other tier above them that exists.
Ben and Jerry's became victims of capitalism. They went economy of scale. They industrialized, and part of the quote unquote savings of an industrialized process is all sorts of chemical additives that kind of degrade the product or the purity of their ice cream. It's
Oh
not
my
bad
gosh.
ice cream. It's really great that you can find like such a stable, I don't want to say entry level, but like a really nice, stable, solid ice cream across the United States.
If you pick it up in Los Angeles or pick it up in Portland, Maine, it's going to be the
Yeah,
same
you can,
thing.
yeah, Portland, Maine. You can pick it up in Canada. You can go overseas, and it's pretty much the same product. That's pretty neat.
It's kind of funny we're talking about this. I recently watched the movie The Founder about the guy who founded McDonald's, and I don't know if you guys have seen it. Have any of you guys seen the movie?
Nope.
I know the story, but I haven't seen the movie.
I know some of
Okay,
the
yeah.
story.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So I had never heard of the story of McDonald's before this. Okay, so like
it's-
the McDonald's brothers, they had their one restaurant, and then this random guy comes in. He like had this amazing burger and fries, and like just an amazing experience because they had this like streamlined line cooking process, and then they started industrializing. And it's like you said, they started using like the powdered milkshakes and stuff like that. And I don't know, it was just really sad that like it started out as something that McDonald's started out as something so wholesome, and it just kind of got completely the spirit of it got completely crushed because there was the demand for more.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
actually
that's
sort
part
of
of the problem with capitalism.
Yeah, Ben and
Yeah.
Jerry's did put in some protections to try to prevent that from happening in the as they handed it off to, I believe, JFC Corp. I don't remember what the corporation is that they're owned by now, but they do have some protections. One thing that I do know about Ben and Jerry's is that you're not actually talking about quite the same product because they have distribution regions where they don't extend past a certain zone, so you are getting milk from different cows. I do believe they still try to control the cows that produce the milk, though it's just not nearly to the same extent that you see as in New
Yeah.
Hampshire. Or
It's
I mean, not
kinda
New
hard
Hampshire,
to
I mean
hold several
New England.
farms to the same standard.
Yeah.
But overall, they get a very similar end result. If I get like a cookie dough from each place, I'm probably not going to be like, this is nothing like that. Nothing like the Portland.
No,
cookie
you'd
dough.
really have to be an expert to taste it because it's so much sugar, it's so much fat.
I mean, if the guy have
Yeah.
like the golden spoon, that's like
Yeah.
that guy.
Oh, you mean the one that you really got to taste? You got to.
Yeah, get the vanilla.
all
Just
10,000
lots of
taste
noises,
buds.
all noises that no one's gonna like.
Oh man.
I love ice
see-
cream, but it's just so much sugar. I just
See,
can't.
I hail from the south, so I kind of have to be a Bluebell stand by creed. It's still really good ice cream, but I think it's really just their vanilla that's hyped up. If anything, their vanilla is
am
like
I
probably the best vanilla I've ever had.
Am I confusing Bluebell with Blue Bunny? Is that another ice cream
Bluebell and
brand?
Blue
Yeah, it's
Bunny are
doing the
different
same
things. It's
thing.
very common for people to
Okay.
get them. There's also Blue Ribbon. People get that mixed up with Bluebell, but Bluebell is the one that everyone talks about. It's also the one that had the
I'm from the Midwest.
Wisteria
There's no, like,
incident all those years ago.
Oh, good.
Oh.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. It's
Huh.
funny because we had actually found a source for Bluebell up here in Maryland. We went to this one I think it was Outback Steakhouse. Outback Steakhouse used to actually sell Bluebell ice cream as
Oh, yeah.
that would be their ice cream that they would put in like their sundaes or whatever. So
That's
when we
kinda
found this
terrifying.
out, we actually buy 5-gallon tubs of their vanilla ice cream directly from Outback because we were so desperate for Bluebell. Well, one of the tubs we bought was right before the Wisteria incident came out.
Oh no.
Yeah, so it was probably contaminated. Thankfully, none of us got sick. But man, I think that was enough to scare Outback because they never sold Bluebell again after that.
That's unfortunate.
So we had
but yeah.
lost our source. We had lost our plug. We
Yeah,
lost
from
our dealer.
like coming from the Midwest, you don't really like have a ice cream brand that you like attach onto. I don't know.
Oh, that's actually different now. You should just see if you can get your hands on some Tillamook.
Tillamook.
Oh, Tillamook.
Yeah, see if you can get your
I've
hands on
heard
some
that's really
Tillamook.
good. I've heard that's
Yeah,
really good. I've not had Tillamook.
Tillamook is making a big splash because it is a reverse model on the standard capitalist model for ownership. So it's actually worker owned. It's completely worker owned. So the model and the model that they use to approach their design philosophy, their testing philosophy, their sourcing philosophy, their compensation for their employee philosophy runs against the grain. And what has ended up happening is they have produced some amazing cheddar cheeses out of Wisconsin. Their cheddar cheese is now considered widely almost Michelin level like of quality.
Oh.
So Michelin cooks will actually have a hunk of Tillamook in their fridge more often than not nowadays. And they've
I've
made
had
and
Tillamook
I don't know
cheese
how much
before,
of
and
that's
it's
I don't know how
amazing.
much of it's sponsorship and how much of it's like the actual quality, but it's been like I've had their cheese and it's I don't know I'm always gonna have a soft spot for a really nice sharp cheddar out of Vermont because it's just what I grew up on. But like Tillamook has been making some great strides, and their ice cream is now very much a Midwestern favorite and making it a name for itself on the map. So if you go to your grocer and try to hunt down some Tillamook in the creamery section, you might find a new favorite.
Huh. Cool.
They own from the line down from the cows. I don't think they control feed very well, but they own from the cows down. So
That's cool.
Yeah, we don't really have regional ice cream here. We have less like farm to table stuff because our farm industry isn't. We have farms here, but it's not anything like noteworthy like that. Our stuff is all
but it's
like,
called the Garden State.
We only have
The
corn.
Garden State.
Yeah,
We have
it was
corn
also
and
called
soy.
the Gardens. It was also called the Garden State before all the building between then and now. It seems I remember when we were in college, it felt so weird being able to drive out of the town we were located in, and I'd be in like sort of nothing between there and going to another town. You just can't get that experience because if you zoom out of like New Jersey, at least where I live, all you see is anything but green for a large distance.
Oof.
You also get to pump your
own.
own gas.
Yes.
Wait, what? I'm sorry. Back up. What?
We're the last state
By
that-
state law, they are not allowed to interact with a gas station handle. It is illegal to touch the pump in New
Part
Jersey.
of it is because the
I'm sorry. What incident led to this being a
no
law?
no incident. We have so many refineries here compared to the areas around us that it was initially put in as a jobs program. Partially that, but
okay, I
partially
see.
to make gas cost more.
I
So-
see. See, I thought it was like something terrible happened where like someone
No.
was like so
No.
many people were just setting their cars on fire.
No Zoolander gas fight, nothing like that.
No, that's
There
what
were-
New
happens
Jersey is one
now
of the
when people
major
leave.
petroleum importers in the U.S.
But there's one of the during the 2008 crisis when like gas shot up to like $4 a gallon, stuff like that. It was still
Oh
like
gosh, yeah.
it wasn't at the normal price here, but it could be like 50 cents cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
So there were so many cases of people jumping the border, like understandably from Pennsylvania to New Jersey to get gas.
Yeah.
I forget
Yeah.
if there were anything like put in place even locally, like you have to be from New Jersey to get gas here, but like I looked at a map
No,
of gas
New
stations
Jersey.
in Pennsylvania, and
Yeah.
it's like how on the Pennsylvania side of the border, there's a lot of fireworks things, and on the New Jersey side of the border, there's a lot of gas stations because everyone goes to the other side to get those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing is New Jersey avoided the whole carbon tax issue. So most of New England agreed to start putting carbon taxes on gas prices and petroleum products. I believe New Jersey opted for a much lower tax rate on these products.
Look, you think we have room to keep everyone alive here? We're going
I don't know.
We're going for as much carbon in the atmosphere as possible.
Oh gosh.
I
packed
I
like
still think
corkboard.
my favorite TV quote about New Jersey is from The West Wing. Sam Seaborn, renowned alum of the Princeton Tigers, says, "My Princeton Tigers can beat your team in sports any day of the week." And the reply is like, "What kind of sports? I don't know. Integrating calculus? I don't know. Get away from me." I think that's like the most New Jersey thing I've heard on television. I refuse to
Amazing.
engage in the other show that has the word New Jersey in its name. I don't believe that represents New Jersey.
They also have
Or I
a
don't want
leaving
it to
tax.
represent New Jersey.
Also have what?
A leaving tax.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a leaving tax?
Yeah, if you want to exit New Jersey, you have to pay a tax called tolls.
Oh,
There's
Oh,
no
yeah,
roads
tolls, yeah.
out of New Jersey that don't require tolls, basically.
That being said, I like the roads here more than a lot of other states I've
Yeah,
been
the
in.
roads are nice. Driving through New Jersey's always been nice. I don't like that
Yeah.
it's only 2 lanes, but there are a 2-lane highway could be a lot worse than what New Jersey has running through it.
Hey, as long as everyone goes with the flow of traffic, you're fine. It's like speed limit could be 60. People are going 80 in the right lane, 90 in the left.
Chicago roads are just so
Oh,
bad.
man.
They're just so bad. I hate it.
Yeah, we can go that fast because we're pretty good with road maintenance. I
No, you don't
hated
get that
driving
much
through
snow.
Pennsylvania.
You just don't get that much snow. I hate driving in the Midwest because all the roads are grooved.
Yeah.
There's no running away from it. It's all grooved. And I get it's necessary because black ice is an absolute nightmare, but Jesus, I hate driving highways in the Midwest.
Meanwhile, in
Just
Virginia and
constant bumpy.
Maryland, there's always cars on the side of the road every 2
Oh,
miles.
Yeah,
Yeah,
constantly.
Virginia's like this weird border, like it's at the Mason-Dixon line, but it's this weird border of like north and south where you have like people who have never seen snow in their life and people who might as well be from like Wisconsin side by side. So you get people like going 80 through a blizzard and totally fine, mixed with like the 4-wheel drive off-roader sitting on the side of the road because they couldn't keep it on. I don't know what's going on in Virginia.
No,
Every time I go
That's
there,
why
there's
I
something
just
weird.
opt to not drive in the snow up here because all the drivers are idiots, regardless of the weather.
No, see, the issue is that they're bad drivers to begin with, so they're already on the side of the road on a nice, bright, shiny,
Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't
nice
take
summer
much
day.
to break them.
Roads are clear. There are 10 cars that I pass just going 10 miles down the road.
It's just I don't understand what it is about drivers in the DC area that like make them so bad.
I didn't like the roads. And I don't mean like the physical structure of the roads, but I just mean like the layout of roads whenever I visit Virginia. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know what there is about that.
They-
I don't know if they're just congested for what they are, but I don't
No,
like it.
no, that's valid.
No,
That's valid.
whoever did the planning just did not know what they were doing at all.
I'll tell you who did the planning. The Colonials. And then we just built roads on top of their old horse roads, and that's why our roads are so messed up.
There,
At least it's not
What do you
Boston.
mean?
There are times when I feel like I would rather be driving around Boston than I would be on the highway system in Virginia.
That's not fair. At least Boston's done section by section. So like where sections meet, it's a little bit messy, but like within a block, it's not too bad.
I would rather be driving around Harvard Square.
Okay, that's all right. Harvard Square was some graduate's pipe dream.
God, Harvard Square is like you can get lost and end up just like it is the definition of I got lost and passed the same food truck just 10 times because I couldn't figure out which turn I made that was the wrong one because I've tried
I know what part of
5
Harvard.
different
I know what part of Harvard
permutations.
Square that is. That's really bad. I know what part of Harvard Square that is.
There's like 5, like you can make
Oh,
different
boy.
turns and still end
Yeah.
up in the same exact spot. It's so weird.
I'm just vibing because most of our roads are just grids.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I liked about driving. That was the only thing I liked about driving the Midwest. Is occasionally, if you go enough blocks away, the main road that runs northwest just turns into like a mini highway.
Yeah.
People are just blaring down 55 into 30.
Yeah.
I just love it when like the speed limit just goes from 30 to 50 or like 45, so I just like blast it. It's like at this point, there's not a lot of people here, and you just book it.
Meanwhile, in Virginia, they have ticket roads that just for a single mile, they'll drop from 60 down to 20 just so they can
Yep.
they can ticket people.
That stuff should be illegal. I've
That-
personally interacted with that stuff in New York. I hate it.
Yeah.
No, that should be
Welcome to
illegal.
the Beltway.
That's also something nice about the Midwest is, in order to avoid tickets, you just don't speed during certain times of the month. What times of the month those are? Quota days.
Yep.
The week before,
Yep.
the week before the
Quota
precinct
days.
quota, just look at every intersection because there's going to be someone sitting there.
Yep, someone's in there.
I think it was Doug DeMuro way back when was like driving across country, and I think it was like he got ticketed in I think it was Montana. He got ticketed, and instead of like he was like, yeah, this was the easiest ticket I ever had to deal with because he got to pay for it like roadside. He got the ticket from the comp and immediately paid it with a credit card, just roadside. And that was it. He was done with that ticket. It's like
roadside ticket service.
That's just saying it all what the intention of the tickets are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need gas money. It's all civil asset and forfeiture and tickets are all gas money.
Oh, where I got pulled
my
over in New York, it's like it's known that is the main income stream for that area.
I've never gotten a ticket.
What is your local economy based on? Oh, agriculture. Oh, ticketing drivers.
Here's an idea. What if you just patrolled less?
No, you gotta be proactive. You gotta scare people away.
Gotta enforce the law.
Yeah, that's one thing I can't wait for at some point in the future. I'm not saying it's going to be like Tesla says like 6 to 8 months for the past 15 years, but like driverless cars. The thing is with like people speeding, I don't think it's necessarily they want to get to their destination faster, but I think most people, unless it's doing something fun, they hate driving. So they just want to get it over with.
You just gotta feel. You just gotta go fast and feel something, man.
My problem
if I was sitting in a like automated car, I don't care if we go 50 the whole way. I don't care if we go 40 the whole way. I'm not driving. I can do literally anything else that I have with me in the car.
You know people are gonna fucking
Actually,
that.
I don't know if that's true. There was an interesting MIT study that was done, I believe, in the early mid '90s. This was during the EPA time where people were trying to debate how much is a life really worth. And some snarky MIT guy says like, well, people do stupid shit in all the time in their cars. They text on their phone. They make phone calls on their phone. This is an implicit way for us to evaluate how much a human life is worth. So he totaled up, or he approximated roughly how much business was done in a car and how many accidents and how many deaths there were. And he worked out that implicitly Americans value their life at somewhere between $50,000 to $80,000. That was the level of risk that we assume by using our cell phones in the car.
But I'm talking about like when we get to the point where you could get in a taxi and it would drive you somewhere with no driver. I'm talking about full automation. I'd go in there with
full fleet. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
like
I'm
talking about like owning an individual car, just getting in something like that. I don't care if that goes 45 miles an hour all the way to my destination 300 miles away. I'd like it to go faster, but I wouldn't care because I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that frees you up to do other things.
Exactly.
Or just relax.
I'd bring a handheld game. I'd sleep if it was safe enough.
You know
Yeah,
people would fucking that, right?
Oh, of course. Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's gonna be like one of the first things.
Yeah,
It's
one
an
of the
entire
first thing.
subreddit in England. They don't
Sorry,
just
what?
like
What?
it's. You don't know
Sorry,
what it is.
back
It's-
up. What?
There's a
It
what?
is what do you think America's favorite pet is?
A dog.
Very different meaning in England.
Shagging?
No, dogging.
Yeah.
Dogging is explicitly
Dogging
doing it in
cars.
public places, usually in a vehicle.
What the?
This is one of the largest voyeurism fetishes that exists in
There's
the UK. is dogging in a park.
18,000 people on the subreddit. What
Very
the
different from dog in the park.
Whoa.
Why?
What?
It's
that's
okay.
crazy.
They're all related.
They're all related.
23.
Sometimes it's hard to remember how backwards England is. I think it
23
was
male
only
for female. CMC
I'm sorry to
said,
all
what
0 of our
the-
English viewers.
yeah.
Oh gosh.
Oh, actually,
I
I
think
had
it
a
was
UK
only-
viewer yesterday. Or
Oh,
not
we
yesterday, a couple
did.
days ago.
20-year-old male looking for naughty. What the?
Yeah, don't read those out loud. Again,
Don't
we are
read
not
those out
sponsored.
loud.
We are not sponsored by Dogging UK. Thank you.
I-
But I would like to be sponsored by dogs in the UK. I'd like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the alarming things that I've learned is it's only in the past, I think, 5 years. I think in 2013. Oh god, that's more than 5 years ago. But like it was in the last decade that London has finally reached a population level that was the same as before World War II.
Huh.
Oh wow.
Wow.
That I think it's very easy to forget how many lives were lost between World War I and World War II, and how far back that set the country.
I wouldn't say all of that had to do with deaths in London, or even from the.
Well, I'm just saying, like, London, a major population center that has tons of people constantly moving in, has only, in the past 10 years, re-hit their population levels after World War II.
I just want to cover that for anyone listening, because that makes it sound like deaths attributed directly to the war. But that sounds more like people moving out of the city. And people
I would
slowly
normally
moving
agree
back
with you,
in.
but London is such an economic capital and such a culture center that I would imagine even during the height, like, this is comparing pre-World War II numbers to post-World War II numbers.
I really would have to see those, because I don't believe that.
Okay, I'll dig it up for next time.
Maybe
Oh my
I
god,
should
I'm
call
gonna
in
have
the
to...
Mead Man. Maybe the Mead Man can give us some.
The meat man.
I'm sure the Mead Man could give us some enlightenment. He's into this stuff.
The meat man.
Yes. For clarification, the Mead Man is my boyfriend, and he loves history. So
And mead.
and mead
Yeah.
and mead. He loves history and mead.
I have a disproportionate knowledge of alcohol and meads to how much I drink.
Oh
Yeah,
god, my laundry
I
machine
mean-
is acting insane right now. Sorry about that.
So in 1939, the population of total London, inner and out of London, was about 8.6. I think this is in millions. And only in 2018 did
No,
it
just 8.6.
8.6 million. And in 2011, it was 8.2.
It's.
So sometime between 2011 and 2018, it passed its 1939 levels.
I would have to really think that has to do. I'd have to see what's considered London, because you know how there's like the city of London within the greater London metropolitan area.
Yeah, so this is apparently both inner and outer London combined together. If you look at the numbers for, there's an absolute dip in 1991 is where it's at its lowest.
I'd really have to think that that's even during the war. People, and are these stats just from 1939 and 1991, or does it have?
This is coming from 1931 to 2030 projections, but this is from another source.
Because
This is page one. This is page one YouTube. This is page one Google hits.
Because I'd really have to think that it's people moving, not like away, but just, hey, we can build more tract housing estates outside of the main part of the city, so we're not all living on top of each other.
I guess that's also part of like suburbanization, right? Like just moving out of cities.
More recently, you've got more and more people building taller and taller buildings, smaller and smaller subdivisions within these buildings. More people willing to live with roommates, stuff like that, which is why it's back up to there today.
I feel like vertical building is gonna be the more popular trend going forward as cities start to increase in density. There's gonna be a more increasing shift towards building vertically and trying to implement more like eco-friendly building techniques such as like vertical gardens or like vertical solar panels. I think that's going to be an interesting thing going forward to see how that technology develops.
I'm thinking of I'm trying to look for what the address is. The new residential building.
Is it like the one in New York? That's like
it's super tall. It's super skinny.
It's like
but-
30
I've seen
something.
an architecture tour of that building. It looks
305
so bizarre.
West?
Yeah. What is it? I keep seeing it in Google searches, but it's like, here are the top 10 buildings. 111 West 57th Street, I think, or 432 Park Avenue. I think there's like.
I think it's the
of them like that
432 Park Avenue thing.
Yeah, but just totally ignoring the skinny part of it, just how tall it is in comparison to everything else. Like, are we going to eventually hit a point where they tear down buildings and everything just keeps getting taller and taller and taller in the same footprint?
Unfortunately,
time.
like that, we're kind of doomed to have to do that if we're
Yeah.
going to increase our, the rate of reproduction. Just
And I can't imagine like Central Park being in like a 200 at least 200-foot depression compared to all the buildings around it. That'd be so weird.
yeah, at a certain point, Central Park will they'll just have to give up on it.
Oh, they won't. They can't.
I don't think they'll give up on Central Park. I mean everything around it. So it's just going to be this
Central
They can't
Park's
get
an
rid of
asset,
Central
right?
Park.
Like Blarp, they can't get rid of Central Park. One of the things that they discovered is you need to have green inside your city. I think it's for every acre of green you have, it drops the city's temperature by almost 2 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of urban projects you see people like greenifying roofs. They're trying to add more trees back into the roads, even though it literally the roots will destroy sewer systems and other problems.
Yeah.
Every amount of green you get into the city noticeably drops the temperature for the city.
Well, unfortunately,
Unfortunately, they cannot just get rid of it. They have to find some other way around it.
yeah, I think that it might go towards more of like wall side greenery and stuff like that. Though
Maybe.
at some
Maybe.
point, it's just sort of how much light is going to be occluded by tall buildings surrounding it.
I'm always interested. It's like a morbid curiosity looking at like Hong Kong. Just how like that's a case of where you had to build up because you absolutely cannot build out. And
Yeah,
just seeing
Yeah.
those just walls and walls of buildings.
Oh yeah, the forbidden city of the quote unquote forbidden city of Hong Kong.
Yeah, and not even talking about Kowloon, like just their actual like, yes, we can build this stuff.
Yeah. Looking at a map of Shanghai scares me.
Yeah.
You just keep zooming out, and you just keep zooming out.
I feel like I like what Korea's doing with the implementation of like greenery within the social fabric of the city, cuz their new project they're developing a new capital city called Sejong. And so what they're doing is that like they're putting parks and like overlaying it on top of buildings so it creates like this like mesh of like built like administrative and residential buildings as well as like public amenities such as like parks and greenery. And I think it's a very cool way of doing it where like it's just all together instead of like separate as we see in like Central Park or like other cities like in the US. Like it's really cool that they did that.
Yeah, we'll have to
So,
see. I'm
are
still
they
waiting to see
building-
if we build down.
Is that a planned? They're like building
yeah,
a planned
it's-
city and moving their capital from Seoul to there.
Yeah, I think so.
Huh. I only like know of that from like Brazil.
Yeah.
amazing what happens when you plan things out.
Yeah.
They in fact make some stuff
I wouldn't know
easier.
anything about that.
So I think the city is
Who
going to
needs
be
to
called
plan?
Sejong City. Sejong.
Yeah, full send is just my game plan for everything.
Hey, it works super well. Full sending is the best way to do it.
Full send. No.
Full send.
Yeah.
Just go
Full
for
send is the reason why we can describe the width of the Saturn V booster rockets as roughly 2 horses' asses.
I'm sorry. What?
Oh, I haven't told you this story. It's one of my favorite stories about bureaucracy. So
Okay,
when
go
NASA
right
was
ahead.
when NASA was trying to get into space, they needed big booster rockets, but you can't build them in Florida. There's a lot of problems with building in Florida, so they had to contract out to a construction crew and fabricator out past the Rockies in Colorado. And they built the rockets, these are big rockets, and this was way before SpaceX. So if you launch into space, there's no way to get them down. So how do you get them from Colorado all the way over to Florida and Cape Canaveral? You could try to drive it by car, but these things were heavy, and driving by car doesn't seem like a good idea. Too many turns, too many traffic accidents. So the only thing they could do is put it on a train. And when you're putting on a train through the Rockies, you got to get it through train tunnels. So you could only make the rocket so big before it wouldn't fit to the tunnel, right? Because that would cause obvious problems. So now they have rockets that are roughly the size of train tunnels. Train tunnels have been the same size since basically the Industrial Revolution, because we stole all of our train technology from England.
Hell yeah.
So
think I
the
know where
width
this
of
is
our
going.
rails, the locomotives, everything is just stolen from England. We literally just smuggled out one set of base plans, and we've been copying them ever since.
And I want to ask before you get to it, was this because they initially used horses to pull trains, or they used trains to transport horses?
I was gonna
Nope.
ask that too.
Yeah.
Nope, it's economical. It's an economic thing. So trains are used as an economic mode of transportation, transporting large loads of really heavy things. And when you're doing that, you don't want to turn ever. You just want to go in a straight line, right? So the straightest lines between cities and ports of origin were traditionally are what are now train lines today. Were historically pulled by horses and carts.
Oh.
And so they'd have two horses side by side.
They'd have two horses side by side. But now the real question becomes, why is it, how far back can we go this? How far back can we go with this unit of measure? And it turns out we can go really far back. We can go all the way to the Romans. And if you're really, really pedantic, we can actually go all the way back to the ancient Egyptians. Because some guy in ancient Egypt decided something, we have rocket boosters that are a certain size today. So when England was conquered by Julius Caesar, the Romans bought a lot of innovation technology. They cleared out forests. They set up these straight road lines that Rome is famous for. And one of the reasons why they did that is because they needed to control the country with their war chariots, because that was their form of communication.
So what you're saying is
And they
when
built,
we
they
talk
built
about how
ruts into the road, right? For
They
the
drove ruts
chariots.
into the road. So if anybody else wanted to use these roads that were used by the Roman military, your wagon had better have the same spacing as a Roman war chariot.
So when we talk about being on the moon, you also have to say thank you, Romans.
We do, because
Thank
some
you,
guy in Rome decided to copy the Egyptian war chariot diagrams that were wide enough for two horses. Because of that one decision, we made it to the moon off the Saturn V rockets. that is the history. That is my favorite story of unintended consequences of bureaucracy. So when people ask me, "Oh, why does the EPA standard matter?" It's like, "Oh, why does this matter? It just works, right?" It's like, maybe. But did you know that our rockets today are being dictated by some Roman carpenter who just didn't want to make his chariots wider?
Nah,
that's
this will
it.
have no impact. We're fine. 2,000
That-
years later.
That is an amazing tidbit of history. I'm gonna keep that with me always.
It is
Also,
fantastic. Somebody has
I
a much
call-
cleaner representation.
Mead Man
of it,
has
but
arrived.
Oh my god.
I called in the Mead Man to explain the population of London to us.
Yeah. So there's an interesting exodus that happens after 1930. I know that 1930 is high because the Jews were fleeing in the pre-war era to London en masse. But there is a huge dip following it that only was matched again in like 2012, 2013. So do you know what's going on with the population of London? Why did it dip for almost 20 years before it started growing again?
Yeah, essentially we're trying to figure out like why did the population of London dip?
Because it wasn't just deaths from the bombing raids. It
Yeah,
wasn't
like
that.
why the population dipped during the World Wars, and then it only just now within the recent years came back to the same. What did you say it was between like 2018 and now?
Yeah, sometime between 2011 and 2018, total population of London, the inner and outer city, finally reached their 1939 levels. It seems to have hit a historic low sometime between 1981 and 1991.
Everybody run!
Economy
And
go
after
down,
that, it's
I
been a
know
very
lots of
slow
people who
rise
could
back.
leave London during the World War II because of the bombings. Yeah. Okay, so that's what we were assuming. That, like people just left.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that people never came back because London is such a cultural and economic powerhouse.
Well, I mean, you gotta
Because
remember these wars lasted like a couple of years. Like, if you move out of a place and you go like settle somewhere else, are you really gonna like after like a couple of years and you're like comfortable there? Are you really gonna just pick up and go back to where you were just because the war's over? And,
I
like,
think
things
a
are
lot
safe
is
now?
post-war
I feel like that's a lot
suburbanization.
of British carry-on mentality.
Yeah, and
But
London's
also,
also
like,
expensive to live in. That's very true. Thank
London's
you,
also
Meat Man.
expensive shit to
You
live in
made the
back then, yeah.
investment to leave.
But people say the same thing about LA, New York, Chicago to a certain extent is getting to this point. Austin is also seeing something like this as well. People like to move into urban areas This definitely is okay. All right, we'll let you back to your meat then.
Well,
Yes.
I mean,
Thank you. We appreciate your expertise. I appreciate it.
people are leaving now. The populated areas just because COVID lets people work from wherever they want. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
So
if
you
you set up
can't
the
buy a
infrastructure, I'm not sure that people are necessarily going to move back at the same rate that they left.
Yeah.
I'm still so mad about my company. I'm beyond.
Nice, 15 pounds of honey. That is nice.
This is the first time hearing about it, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited for this. Yes.
I'll take the floor here because I will always take time to talk about my company that will go unnamed. But I
That will
work
go
for,
unnamed.
Yes, I work for a company in New Jersey. That's really narrowed it down.
Yeah.
And
They are also not a sponsor of this podcast.
they're
Yes.
also not a sponsor of this podcast, whoever they are. And like most other companies before COVID, there were no plans in place to work from home. Work in the office, continue to work in the office. We can't ever work from home, said every company ever. We need you in the office. Then COVID came and everyone went, okay, I guess we can do this. And we've all been lying forever. And now we're getting to the point where COVID is going down. Personally, I don't think it's going to be completely safe until, I don't know, midsummer. But we're looking at going back maybe May or June.
Very optimistic.
And the main reason is right before COVID popped off, my company bought a new office. So I think that because of sunk cost, they're having us go back instead of permanently working from home. Because they said in multiple releases to us, the worker, that like productivity has gone up, worker happiness has gone up, being able to work from home. You gotta like take your kids somewhere. You gotta have like a plumber come in to check something out. You can do that. You don't have to schedule time off because you're home, and you can take 5 minutes to set something up. And pretty much everything the release said, like, work from home has been great for the company. We are going back to the office and doing XYZ. And the worst part of it is my old office was 10 minutes away. My new one is 45 minutes away, one way. And everyone, pretty much up until you start getting into like higher management, like the actual corporate part of it, everyone's upset about it. I really think it comes down to I think it comes down to the sunk cost of the new office and a few people at the top going, well, how can we be sure you're working if we're not watching over your shoulder? But that's partially me being petty about the whole thing.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, having taken an unfortunate number of business management classes, you are almost 100% correct.
Because then it's like, what
It
do
is
they
very
do then?
much. It's very much some guy at the top saying, it's like, oh crap, if we don't use these offices, I'm gonna get fired for an unexplained expense.
Yeah, I'm gonna get fired for unexplained expense, and there's gonna be a bunch of middle managers who suddenly have no job.
Yeah.
So
Strange how you can't say that just write that off as COVID expense.
yeah, the biggest mystery for it myself is that they have us on a 2-week schedule, where like week A, I'm working Monday through Wednesday. Hello.
Hello?
Hello?
I think I misclicked.
Okay.
Oh, welcome back.
Where Monday through Wednesday, I'll be working in the office, then Thursday and Friday at home. Then week B, I'll be working Monday through Wednesday at home, and then Thursday, Friday in the office. I'll take what I can get at this point. But I will never be in the same office as everyone else. There will never be a time where we're all there. So it's going to be crap for planning meetings, especially even within my group, there's people where going forward, I will never be in the office with them ever again, because when I'm in the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they're at home. And it'll just never match up again unless we do something. So it's not about planning meetings when you never have more than half the group there at any one time. They try to say that.
Mhm.
And I'm sure this is happening all over the country with companies who are at the top. They're like, we have to be in the office because we do.
Yeah.
I would just love to not have to spend gas. I'd love to not have to buy more office clothes. I'd love to not have to worry about gas. I think I already said that.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's
A
a
man
big
from New
expense.
Jersey worrying about the price of gas?
It's
What does this country come
more
to?
likely than you think.
Insanity.
Answer number 4 may surprise you.
Amazing.
Inconceivable.
Well,
And it makes me think where if enough companies didn't go back, going back to the thing about urban areas, would you see the price of housing in New York go down? Or will the working New Yorkers leaving cause a bunch of like people who might work remotely going, well, I want to live in New York? I'm curious how that's going to play out.
That is
Yeah,
very interesting.
That'll be an interesting argument. Beverly Hills had this problem because there's too much fame and culture around to it, and that has a price tag associated with it.
So
This
you
is
got
actually a
people
much better
moving
question
there
for
who weren't
Queso because he
famous.
lives across the water, where the market's a little bit more stable, a little bit more reasonable.
Really?
No, Kate.
Interesting.
He lives
I thought
in
thought-
Brooklyn.
Oh, okay. All right, then I got that wrong. I thought someone lived over. Oh, okay, whatever.
He
Nope.
he used to.
Oh, he used to. Okay, yeah. All right.
So my major is essentially animation, and I've got several friends that ended up working for like Disney and Lucasfilm and stuff like that. The thing is,
Same.
they got hired during COVID.
Uh,
So they got really lucky. They're not living in California right now. Most of them are still living in Texas, and they just sent them computers.
aw,
So they don't
that's
even
so
have to pay
nice.
like they don't even have to pay like the California living prices
Are
right
they
now.
getting Are they getting paid California salaries?
That I don't know actually.
Because I
I
know
would
some
have to.
companies are doing that. If something like, it's totally fine if you remote in from Pennsylvania every day, but we're going to pay you significantly less.
Yeah, I actually don't know. I should probably message them and ask them about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
See, okay, actually, can I go on a rant real quick
Go
about
on.
like
Of
how
course.
we
I-
don't
I
talk
think we
about
will-
salaries
we will
and like
close
how
it off on the
Please,
rant.
please do.
All right, look, I think there's a weird thing that we don't talk about salaries that like I don't know. Now, look, I haven't done much research into it, but I feel like we don't talk about salaries often enough because we don't like higher ups don't want people knowing that they get paid as much as they do.
It's exactly it.
That's exactly it. Okay, cool. So I'm not crazy for thinking that because I
Every-
feel like
It's
if we like
also a cultural
discussed-
thing.
Every
It's
young
also
person in my
cultural thing for
office, if I asked anyone under, I don't know, 30, maybe 35 in my office how much they'd make, they'd spout it off like I just asked them, like, what time is it? But
Yeah,
anyone
I mean,
above that, it's like, you can't do that.
I get it from
Yeah.
a cultural standpoint. Like, oh, you don't want to ask people salary because if they're like embarrassed about their salary. I get that. But like, I also feel like if we start normalizing like discussing salaries, then we can start like realizing, oh, I should probably be getting paid more for the work I do
Yeah.
because
And-
my work is similar to this person,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And then we just kind of open,
It comes from
we open up
anti-union
more
sentiment.
discussion for salary negotiation.
Yeah, no, it's 100% exactly what you said. This is I take a lot of business classes. One of the things that you see when women come to my school to present on these issues is they always say, talk about your salary, talk to your peers about your salary, because HR will never tell you. Women, one of the reasons why even today that like corporate is more responsible with like female engineers and female employees, that women still typically get paid less than men, usually to the tune. It's not as bad anymore. But it's still like 5% is pretty common for a woman to be paid less than her peers. Even in like tech roles, even in business roles, even in HR positions, women are commonly paid less than men. Part of the issue is that they just don't talk about it.
Yeah,
They just don't
like,
talk about it. So
Yeah, I
every
mean-
single female speaker is like, talk to your peers. When you go out for drinks with your coworkers after a long day, ask them how much they're making. Don't feel bad about trying to figure out how much you should be worth. Because there's a huge cultural stigma, I don't understand where it comes from, about not understanding your value.
I
Women
think it's
feel awkward
definitely-
asking about how much someone's getting paid. And I don't know
Yeah.
where it comes from.
Yeah.
I think
it's
it has
really
to come
silly.
from the enforcement of traditional gender roles where, like, you should just trust men
Well,
in positions of authority.
Yeah, there is that.
No,
There
but
is
it's more than
yeah.
that. HR will actually go out of their way to make it sound like you're not allowed to disclose your salary.
I would also say, to a degree, like, it happening to women more is definitely a thing, but I would also say there's anti-union sentiment, because the more people talk about it, it's like, hey, you know, we should all be making more. I think we
Yeah.
should band together in a sort of union, I guess.
it's in a company's.
Russian people always ask what your salary is. Thank you, darling.
Uh, it is to
no.
some extent sort of in the company's best interest to be able to pay people as low as possible, but at the same time, people do need to understand what the value that they're creating is, and they should understand how much they're worth because of that. Because that ultimately is how we get this disproportionate pay grades, is because people don't understand what they're worth.
In my books,
And
you should
just
all be
because
making
you're
six
happy with your
figures.
pay doesn't mean that you're being compensated fairly.
Yeah.
That is a very, very big
That's
point
also
that I feel
another
like
thing.
not a lot of people realize.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even realize it until like recently when I actually started like job hunting and stuff like that.
Yeah. A lot of fresh young-eyed people are so happy that they're getting paid in a position at all, and they just don't ask for more.
Because it's more money they've seen in their lives.
Well, it's not just that. It's just they've never felt like, because you've faced something similar to this, but you'll feel it a lot more once you move out. Expenses add up quickly.
Oh yeah,
They do.
Yeah,
Now
they
like
do.
things are on the line. You're totally on your loan. You're free floating. Having anything to hold on to is like such a huge mental relief. Like, oh man, there is this amazing study that was done in India on croppers, because they have one cash crop. So one part of the year they're super rich, one part of the year they're super poor, because they only make money when they sell their crop. And they
I see.
found that just the stress of having money and not having money, when these Indian croppers had money, they performed like they had 30 more IQ points. Probably not. I think it was 15 was the number. But they just performed like they were more intelligent when they had more money. And when they had less money, they performed worse on cognitive tests.
Stress is real. And it
Yeah.
just
It's
sits in your
just the
mind all the
stress.
time.
I
Right? It's
think
just that stress. So that relief you feel from your first job can really like warp your perspective.
I-
And
It's
HR is
definitely-
happy to capitalize on that difference of perception.
I think that is
perception.
That
also the
makes a lot of
case,
sense,
like
yeah.
for like the working class here in like the U.S. Because like the less you have to worry about like where your next meal is gonna come from, like the more energy you can put into like other things, like improving like your skill sets in order to get more money. But like
Yeah.
that isn't usually the case, because like people are worrying about like where their next meal is gonna come from, if they're gonna be able to pay for the house, you know. So like,
Yeah.
Like, obviously, not all wealthy people are healthy, but it's just something where it's like money can't buy happiness, but you can afford things that make you happy if you are wealthy.
It can provide some relief.
It's
Just
like
knowing that
whenever-
like your meals are you can take care of your meals. You can take care of like your basic needs.
I
Whenever
feel
I see
like that.
studies that are like,
Good old Maslow.
whenever I see studies that are like studies have shown that people who own horses live like 20 years longer on average than people who don't own horses. But when you look at it, comes down to
Confounding
people who can
variable.
afford horses can probably afford adequate
Yeah.
health care.
But
Yeah.
I don't agree with the statement that money can't buy happiness. I think that was just like a statement just to like, I don't know. I just
the
don't agree
statement
with
was
it.
originally made that like
Listen, not
money won't
everybody
replace-
not everybody needs oil for their ship waifus, okay?
that statement was originally made to
Not
tell
everybody
people
needs to
that
play Genshin Impact.
you can't replace
Oh my
your
God.
issues
Oh,
with
God.
money. But today people are using that as like you should be happy with anything you had.
Yeah.
Is how people are using it today.
All right.
It's making people stay in their place.
Yeah. And
On that
Yeah,
note,
I don't support that. I mean, money. I mean, money can't specifically buy happiness, but it can like provide a lot more opportunities for like fun and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's a necessary but insufficient thing. You
Yeah,
can't have fun if you
exactly.
don't have money, but having money doesn't mean you have fun.
that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
yeah.
So Blarp,
On that note, I think that we will call this podcast a wrap.
Who's reading the
Are
outro?
we?
Well,
Who's reading the intro is sponsored by. Sorry.
well, you can take us out. Thank the audience.
Oh,
I don't-
me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, audience, for listening to Who's Reading Intro, and this is our outro.
Yes.
amazing.
Thank you for listening. Good night.
Good night.
peace.
Good night.